Hi everyone and welcome to Back in Time Fiction, the channel dedicated to historical fiction and historical fantasy. In this video, I will finally review one of my most memorable read, the Conqueror series by Conn Iggulden. 5 books I absolutely adore, but didn't really want to comment on this channel because I had some issues with the writer. So, this video will contain a relatively spoiler-free review of the Conqueror series and a bit of a warning for you. Here we go! Hi everyone, my name is Baptiste Pinson-Wu, and for the first time I upload video as a published writer, something I will tell you a little bit more about at the end of this video. But for now, let's talk about the Conqueror series, and we start with a few words about its author. If you enjoy historical fiction, you probably heard of Conn Iggulden. He's one of the masters of the genre, with amazing and popular series under his belt, such as the Emperor series, the War of the Roses, Conqueror, Falcon of Sparta, a bunch of others, plus some really enjoyable fantasy novels like Empire of Salt. Iggulden's writing is super fluid, it is accessible, easy to get lost in, and altogether quite straightforward. His characters are always well fleshed out, and the pacing is usually impeccable. He also happens to be the one writer I would recommend for anyone who would like to start reading historical fiction. I personally started with the Conqueror series, 5 books retracing the life of Genghis Khan and a little bit more. Then I moved to the Emperor series, which is about Julius Caesar. And that's when things went wrong between Iggulden and I. Let me make this straight, I took a lot of pleasure reading the Emperor series. It was fun. It was engaging, it was altogether enjoyable, it was just not historical. I won't go into the details here because, well, that's not the topic of these videos, but the Emperor series was full of inaccuracies, and not just small details that don't really matter, but like big, obvious historical inaccuracies. From the age difference between the characters to their abilities, we get a novel or a series of novels that I would put more onto the historical fantasy side than historical fiction. Nothing wrong here, it was absolutely well done. Well, until the last one. But it was only fine for someone who has a basic knowledge of Roman history. For someone who doesn't know much about Julius Caesar or the time he lived in, this kind of novel can lead to crazy misconception about this time period. And this is what got me a little bit skeptical about introducing the Conqueror series on this channel. Most of us, including me, don't know the Mongol culture and history well enough to make the distinction between history and, well, fiction. Thus, my advice to anyone who wants to read the Conqueror series, remember this has been fictionalized a lot, probably, and don't take it as straight fact. Now that this is out of the way, let's see why you should read the Conqueror series. First, very obviously, because there are not so many novels as well written on the life of Genghis Khan and the Mongols, so if you have an interest for this topic, you'll probably read them. There are 5 novels in this series, starting from the childhood of Temujin, the future Genghis Khan, and covering the expansion period of the Mongol Empire, the biggest empire that ever existed. Some events of the life of Genghis Khan have been completely removed from this story, but again, it did not bother the reading experience. Personally, I always had an interest on this topic, but knew more about the life of Kubilai, the grandson of Genghis. As such, it was in a big part a discovery for me. At the start of the story, what is now Mongolia is divided into many tribes and people. Temujin, the second son of a clan chief, spends the first part of his childhood surrounded by his brothers, learning the culture of his people, how to ride, how to behave like a man, etc. Until some event forces his family out of the clan and leaves them to fend for themselves in the wild. This is where the story of Temujin really begins, and as we know, that story will turn him into a bit of an overachiever in terms of conquest. You get a big dose of Mongolian culture in these novels, and to me this was probably the strongest point of the series, the immersion into a culture I thirsted to know more about. I think Iggulden mentions in the author notes that he spent some time in Mongolia for his research, which is easy to feel through the description of the land and customs, though some details might be based on a more modern Mongolia than the one of Genghis' time. There isn't much to say about the writing, it's Iggulden, it's just brilliant. I especially have to mention the quality of the battle scenes. I find them even better than in the Emperor series, and even there they were pretty full of awesome. There is one particular scene, I believe, which is in the third novel, I think, which is absolutely breathtaking because the battle moves as most of the warriors involved are mounted. I still consider this battle one of the best I've ever read in a novel. And personally, again, I feel like the quality of the writing didn't change from book 1 to the end of book 5. I finished the 5th still wanting for more, which is obviously a good sign. Again, on a personal level, my favorite was the 3rd one. I think the name was Bones of the Hill. But even the 4th and 5th one managed to keep the interest going. But maybe more important than the series itself, the books made me want to research more on the topic. And this is really where historical fiction shines, right? So, to sum up, while very simple, the writing is absolutely awesome. The characters are interesting and engaging, the pace is quite perfect, the details about the culture and places are quite juicy, and remember that's a story that goes from Mongolia to like Persia to Russia and Eastern Europe, so you have a lot of places with a lot of details. And this is one of the biggest series in historical fiction that has nothing to do with European culture, so that's pretty awesome. Well, almost nothing to do with European culture until the Mongol decided to, show up in Eastern Europe, as I said. You just need to mind the historical accuracy and do your research as well. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the Conqueror series if you've read it. Please let me know if this video made you want to give it a try or maybe the opposite. Or, just leave a comment to say hi. Hi. And if, like me, you want more historical fiction set in Asia, I am very pleased to let you know that my book, my first published novel, came out a few weeks ago. It's called The Yellow Sky Revolt, and this is the first volume of a series dedicated to the Three Kingdoms period, China's bloodiest civil war. You can get it in an ebook or paperback from pretty much everywhere on the planet. If you want to know more, feel free to contact me on Twitter or directly through my website. I will leave the links in the description. And if you've read it, first, thank you so much, guys. Second, don't forget to give it a nice ranking and review on Goodreads or wherever you bought the book. That's, of course, if you liked it. If you didn't, well, don't worry. I wouldn't want to take too much of your time. No need to bother. That's it for me today. Thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to share it, comment it, like it, whatever you want. I will see you very soon for more content on the very best genre of literature, that's historical fiction. Until then, grab a book, possibly mine, and enjoy. See ya!